in the heart of a busy African town, where the sun baked the red earth until it cracked, and buses rattle like old drums across bumpy roads. People always said, if you want to see a person's true character, watch how they treat those they believe are beneath them. That truth came to life one hot afternoon, when a young woman named Amara boarded a crowded village bus. Amara was known throughout her street for her beauty and fine clothes. She worked as a secretary for a wealthy businessman in the city, and every morning she left her mother's compound with her handbag swinging and her chin lifted high. Some admired her elegance. Others whispered that pride had eaten deep into her heart. On that day, the bus was already packed, the air thick with the smell of sweat, roasted groundnuts, and dust. Passengers squeezed shoulder to shoulder on the wooden seats, babies strapped to their mothers' backs, traders balancing baskets on their laps, and students holding books tightly to their chests. At the back corner of the bus sat a man no one noticed at first. His clothes were ragged, his sandals torn, and his hands rough from labor. His face was weary, but his eyes carried a quiet strength. His name was Obi. To most who saw him, he looked like just another poor man trying to survive the harshness of the world. When Amara climbed into the bus, her perfume filled the air. Heads turned. She wore a bright yellow blouse, pressed neatly, and a flowing skirt. Her hair was styled perfectly. Her earrings glimmered in the sunlight. She scanned the seats quickly, frowning at the crowded faces. The only empty space was right beside Obi, the poor-looking man. Amara's eyes lingered there for a moment. She wrinkled her nose as if she had smelled something foul. "Driver!" she called sharply, her voice loud enough for half the bus to hear. "Can you not see? How can I sit here beside this kind of person?" The bus went silent. People shifted uncomfortably. The driver glanced back, irritated. "My sister, if you want to go, sit down," he said. "We don't have time for pride here. Everybody is human." But Amara folded her arms across her chest and refused. "I will not sit there," she declared. "Look at his clothes, dirty, torn, smelling of the streets. I cannot squeeze myself beside someone like him." A murmur swept through the passengers. Some shook their heads. A woman carrying tomatoes hissed under her breath, "This girl thinks she is better than the rest of us. Pride will finish her one day." Another man chuckled. "She wears fine clothes but forgets we are all dust when we die." Still, Amara stood her ground, glaring at the space next to Obi as if it carried disease. Obi himself said nothing. He kept his gaze low, his hands folded on his knees. But deep inside, his heart felt the sting of her words. He had worked all his life with dignity, carrying bricks on construction sites, digging trenches under the hot sun. He had fed his siblings when no one else could. Yet here, in front of strangers, he was reduced to nothing but a ragged figure not worthy of seat. The driver lost patience. "If you don't want to sit, get down," he barked. "You are delaying everyone." Embarrassed, Amara finally perched on the edge of another seat, squeezing uncomfortably between two market women. Still muttering complaints, the bus roared forward, rattling down the dusty road. But little did Amara know, fate had prepared a lesson that would humble her before all those same passengers she tried to impress. As the bus journeyed, the atmosphere remained tense. Passengers kept stealing glances at Amara. Some shook their heads. Others whispered quietly. Then, suddenly, a strange noise rattled beneath the bus. A loud bang, followed by a sharp jolt, threw everyone forward. The driver cursed and pulled the vehicle to a stop by the roadside. Smoke hissed from under the bus. The engine sputtered like a dying animal. "Oh no," the driver muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. "This is serious." Panic filled the bus. Mothers clutched their children. A young man shouted, "Driver, are we safe? Is it going to catch fire?" The driver jumped down to check. He shouted back, "It's the brakes. They are gone. If this had happened on the hill ahead, we would all be dead." Gasps and cries spread through the bus. Some passengers began to pray aloud. Others scrambled to push open windows. Amara's face drained of color. She clutched her handbag tightly, her earlier pride forgotten. Fear consumed her. But while everyone panicked, Obi, the poor man she had refused to sit beside, rose calmly to his feet. "Driver, let me see," Obi said. The driver frowned, skeptical. "And what do you know about buses?" "Go and sit down. This is not a job for you." But another passenger spoke up. "Let him try. Do you not see the way he carries himself? This man is not ordinary." Reluctantly, the driver stepped aside. Obi bent down, his rough hands steady, his eyes focused. He inspected the smoking engine, his fingers moving with practiced ease. He tore a strip of cloth from his own shirt, wiped the grease, and began adjusting bolts and pipes with a precision that surprised everyone. Inside the bus, the passengers watched silently. Amara bit her lip, her heart pounding. For the first time, she looked at Obi not with contempt, but with desperate hope. Minutes passed. Sweat dripped down Obi's brow. Finally, he rose to his feet and dusted his hands. "Driver, try now," he said firmly. The driver turned the key. The engine coughed once, twice, then roared back to life. The passengers erupted in cheers. "He has done it!" One woman shouted, "God bless this man!" Another cried, but Amara sat frozen, shame burning in her chest. Just moments ago, she had refused to sit beside him, calling him dirty and unworthy. Now, this same man had just saved her life, and fate was not done yet. The driver clapped Obi on the back. "My brother, you have hands of gold. Tell me, where did you learn this?" Obi smiled faintly. "I was once a mechanic," he said softly. "But when my shop was destroyed in a fire, I lost everything. Since then, I take whatever work I can find. People see my clothes and think I am nothing, but these hands still know what they were trained to do." The bus went silent again, this time in awe. Amara felt her throat tighten. Her pride melted into regret. She lowered her gaze, unable to meet Obi's eyes. The driver spoke loudly. "We owe this man our lives today. If not for him, all of us would have perished on that hill." Passengers nodded, murmuring their thanks. And then, slowly with trembling hands, Amara turned toward Obi. Her voice, once filled with arrogance, now cracked with humility. "Please, forgive me," she whispered. "I judged you by your clothes. I spoke without wisdom. And yet, you saved us all. You saved me." Obi looked at her, his eyes calm, carrying no trace of anger. He simply said, "Life can strip us of wealth, of fine clothes, of everything. But character and skill remain. That is what truly makes a person." The entire bus hummed with approval. An old woman at the back lifted her hand and declared, "Do not despise a man because of his appearance. You may find your savior dressed in rags." The passengers nodded, the words sinking deep into their hearts. Amara's cheeks flushed with tears. In that moment, she realized her beauty and fine clothes meant nothing compared to the dignity of the man she had. Shamed. But the story did not end there, because the road ahead held an even bigger test, one that would force Amara to prove whether she had truly learned her lesson, or if pride still ruled her heart. And so, the bus rumbled back onto the dusty road, carrying not just passengers, but a heavy silence filled with reflection and a suspense that no one could escape. The bus continued its journey, the engine now steady under Obi's careful repair. But inside, the atmosphere was anything but calm. Passengers kept whispering, their voices carrying lessons and judgments like ripples across a pond. One man shook his head and muttered, "So this is how we people behave." The one who saves our lives is the same one who was insulted like a dog just minutes ago. A young mother added, "Pride is worse than poverty. At least poverty can be endured, but pride blinds the eyes." Everyone glanced at Amara, who sat stiffly with her face turned toward the window, her hands trembling in her lap. Her earlier arrogance now weighed heavy on her shoulders. She could feel the sting of every word spoken around her, though no one addressed her directly. Obi, however, sat quietly in his corner, as though nothing had happened. He looked out of the bus with calm patience, his rough hands folded together. As the bus rattled further down the road, the driver called out, "We will stop at the next village to check the engine again, just to be sure." When they arrived, the bus pulled into a small roadside market. Children ran barefoot across the dust, women called out prices for roasted maize, and elders sat under the shade of mango trees, watching with sharp eyes. The passengers spilled out of the bus, stretching their cramped legs. But the whispers did not die. They followed Amara like a shadow. "Is that not the girl who refused to sit next to the poor man?" One trader asked, adjusting the basket on her head. "Yes, it is her." Another replied with a snort. "Beauty without humility is like a clay pot painted with gold. It will break easily." Amara's cheeks burned. She wanted to disappear into the ground. An elder sitting on a stool near the roadside cleared his throat and spoke, his voice deep and commanding. "Bring the young man here," he said, pointing to Obi, "and the young woman too. Let me hear this story properly." The passengers, eager to see what would unfold, quickly gathered. Some pushed Amara gently forward, while others gestured for Obi to step closer. The elder's eyes scanned both of them. His gray beard rested against his chest, and his walking stick tapped the ground firmly. "Tell me," he said, "is it true that you, young woman, refused to sit beside this man because of his appearance?" Amara's lips trembled. She wanted to deny it, but too many had witnessed her words. She lowered her gaze and whispered, "Yes, it is true." The elder's eyes narrowed. "And yet, when your life and the lives of others were in danger, it was this same man who saved you all?" The crowd murmured, "Yes, that is true." The elder leaned forward, his voice like thunder now. "Do you not know the saying, 'A tree is not judged by its bark, but by the fruit it bears'? What fruit have you shown today, daughter?" Tears filled Amara's eyes. She fell to her knees before the elder and the crowd. "I was foolish. My pride blinded me. I judged him by his clothes, not his heart. I am ashamed." The people murmured again, some nodding in approval, others still frowning. The elder turned to Obi. "And you, son, what do you have to say? She insulted you before all, but still you saved her life. Why?" Obi raised his head slowly, his voice calm but steady. "Because life is greater than insult," he said. "If I had let pride answer pride, we would all be dead on that hill. My hands were trained to fix engines, and my heart was trained by suffering. When you have known hunger and loss, you do not waste time on pride. You do what is right." A hush fell over the crowd. The elder's eyes softened. "Young man," he said, "you have spoken with wisdom beyond your years. You have shown the strength of character that even kings desire in their sons." The villagers clapped, some shouting blessings upon Obi. But the elder was not finished. He turned back to Amara, who was still kneeling, her tears wetting the dust beneath her. "Daughter, the lesson you have begun to learn today is only the beginning," the elder said firmly. "If you truly want to change, you must prove it not with words, but with deeds. Pride is a stubborn weed. It grows back unless you uproot it completely." The crowd hummed in agreement. Amara bowed her head deeply. "I will do whatever it takes. Please, teach me." The elder raised his staff and declared, "Then hear me. This journey is not yet over. Before you reach your destination, you will be tested again. And in that test, we shall see if your heart has truly changed. Gasps rose from the passengers. Whispers passed quickly through the market. "What kind of test is this?" someone asked, but the elder only smiled knowingly. "Life has a way of arranging its own lessons. Watch closely, and you will see." The driver called for everyone to return to the bus. The passengers climbed aboard again, their hearts heavy with reflection. This time, Amara did not hesitate. She walked straight to the seat beside Obi, her steps trembling but determined. Without a word, she sat down. The passengers gasped softly, then smiled. Some nodded in approval. The elder's words had taken root. Obi glanced at her, his face unreadable. But deep inside, he understood that this was only the beginning of her journey. As the bus pulled back onto the dusty road, the passengers whispered to each other, quoting proverbs and lessons. "Do not despise a man in rags. He may be the one carrying the key to your survival. Humility is a crown more beautiful than gold. The proud will always kneel before wisdom." The sun dipped lower in the sky, painting the world in orange and gold. The bus rattled on, carrying with it a heavy silence broken only by the rattle of the engine and the unspoken question in everyone's hearts. What test lay ahead? And would Amara pass it, or fail once again? The bus moved steadily along the winding dirt road, leaving the small market behind. The passengers had grown unusually quiet. The elder's warning still hung in the air like a heavy cloud. Before you reach your destination, you will be tested again. Everyone wondered what kind of test could possibly come. For Amara, each rattle of the bus felt like the pounding of her guilty heart. She had sat down beside Obi, something she never imagined she would do. But was that enough? Could such a small gesture erase the weight of her earlier arrogance? Obi, on the other hand, remained calm. His calloused hands rested on his knees, his eyes fixed on the horizon. He had learned long ago that life was a teacher that repeated lessons until they were understood. The sudden halt hours passed. The sun began to sink, casting long shadows across the road. Then, without warning, the bus jerked violently and came to a complete stop. Passengers gasped. "What is it now?" Someone cried out. The driver's voice trembled as he explained. "There is a fallen tree blocking the road. It must have come down during the storm last night." The passengers scrambled out of the bus. Indeed, a massive tree lay across the narrow road, its trunk too thick to move easily. The forest loomed dark on both sides, and the sound of distant animals echoed. "What shall we do?" The driver muttered. "We cannot move forward, and the nearest village is miles away." Panic began to spread. Women clutched their children, men muttered in frustration, and fear crept into the air. It was then that the elder, who had remained silent since the last stop, slowly rose to his feet. He leaned on his staff and said loudly enough for all to hear, "Here lies the test I spoke of. How will you respond? Will pride guide you, or humility? Will selfishness rule, or sacrifice?" His words struck Amara like lightning. She knew, deep inside, that this was her moment. The first reaction, some men attempted to push the tree aside, but it was far too heavy. Others suggested waiting until help arrived, though it could take hours, even days. Why should we risk our lives? One man shouted, "The forest is dangerous. Let us go back." Another disagreed. "Back? That road is longer and unsafe. We must go forward." The passengers argued bitterly, each person thinking only of their own safety. Amara watched the chaos unfold, her heart pounding. Once again, people were on the verge of despair. And once again, the one man they all ignored earlier, Obi, stepped forward. Obi's leadership. "Enough," Obi said firmly, his voice cutting through the noise. The passengers fell silent. His calm strength, born not from arrogance but from quiet confidence, commanded attention. "We cannot wait for help. Darkness is coming, and this forest is not safe. But if we work together, we can clear the road. He pointed toward the thick branches. We must cut and break the smaller limbs first. Then we will push the trunk little by little until there is room for the bus to pass. Some nodded hesitantly, while others still looked doubtful. One man sneered, "And who will do this hard work?" "You? Look at yourself." Obi did not reply. Instead, he picked up a broken branch from the roadside and began clearing the smaller limbs himself. Sweat rolled down his face, but he did not complain. The moment of decision for Amara stood frozen. The memory of her earlier humiliation returned, the way she had refused even to sit next to this man. And now, here he was again, laboring for the safety of everyone while others hesitated. Her heart thudded painfully. This was it, the elder's warning, the second test. Would she stand aside, clinging to her pride? Or would she step forward and prove that she had truly changed? Her hands trembled. The stares of the villagers, the whispers of the passengers, all pressed down on her shoulders. Finally, with a deep breath, Amara moved forward. She bent down beside Obi and began to drag the heavy branches with him. Gasps erupted from the crowd. "The same girl?" Someone whispered. "She is helping him?" Another asked in disbelief. Yes, she was helping. Her fine clothes became dusty, her delicate hands scratched by thorns. But she did not stop. Obi glanced at her briefly, surprise flickering in his eyes. For a moment, their gazes met, and Amara whispered breathlessly, "I was wrong. But let me do right now." Obi gave a small nod, and they continued working side by side. The transformation one by one. Others began to join. A young boy fetched more branches. A mother tied her wrapper and began dragging pieces of wood. Slowly, the spirit of cooperation spread like fire. The passengers who had once mocked Obi now followed his instructions. "Push here," he shouted. "Lift, together." And together they did. With sweat, struggle, and persistence, the fallen tree began to shift. Inch by inch, the path cleared. At last, with one final heave, the trunk rolled aside just enough for the bus to squeeze through. The passengers erupted into cheers. Relief swept over them like cool rain after a storm. The elder's final judgment. The elder stepped forward, his staff striking the ground with authority. His voice boomed over the celebration. "Behold the lesson fulfilled. The poor man, despised for his rags, has once again saved you, not with money or fine words, but with wisdom, courage, and humility. And the proud woman, once blinded by her beauty and wealth, has now humbled herself to labor beside him. This is the true victory." He pointed to Amara. "Daughter, today you were tested, and you did not fail. Remember this always. Humility is the road to honor, while pride is the road to ruin." Tears streamed down Amara's face. She fell to her knees before the elder and before Obi. "I am sorry," she said, her voice breaking. "I judged you by what I saw outside and forgot that the heart is what truly matters. From this day on, I vow never to look down on anyone again." The elder raised his hand in blessing. "Rise, daughter. True repentance is not in words alone, but in the path you choose after today. Walk wisely, and your future will shine brighter." Obi's final words as the passengers prepared to board the bus once more. Amara lingered beside Obi. "Thank you," she whispered, her eyes still wet. "Not just for saving us, but for showing me who I really was. I will never forget this lesson." Obi looked at her, his expression calm, almost gentle. "Do not thank me," he said. "Thank the trials of life. They are the real teachers. Remember, wealth fades, beauty fades, but character remains." With that, he turned and boarded the bus. Amara followed, her heart forever changed. The moral as the bus rolled forward into the fading sunset, the elder spoke one last time for all to hear. "Let this journey be written in your hearts. A poor man's rags may hide a crown of wisdom. A proud heart may be humbled in an instant. Learn well, never despise the lowly, for the one you reject today may be the very one who saves you tomorrow. The passengers nodded silently. Each carried the weight of the lesson. Some whispered proverbs, others simply stared out of the window, lost in thought. And Amara, once proud and dismissive, now sat quietly beside Obi, not out of obligation, but out of respect. Closing scene. The bus disappeared into the horizon, carrying with it not just weary travelers, but hearts transformed by humility, sacrifice, and the unshakable truth that